Hey, Hans from Request for Music here, and I'm going to make a new video creating a patch from scratch and do the same kind of Berlinish kind of thing again. I'll start off creating a sequence. So I need a sequencer, and I'll zoom in first so you'll see what I'm doing. I'm using a sequence, so I'll probably want to start off with creating a bass, for instance. I need a filter, I need a VCO, and I'll need an ADSR. That will be the least. Obviously, I could also take a VCA to the side of this, because when you don't close a filter completely, it will still put the sound through, right? So if I take my VCO into my filter like that, and I take my envelope out of my ADSR into the envelope of this, and I'll take a gate out of the sequencer to start off with, and I will be using a sawtooth. I won't get any sound like this as soon as the filter is closed, but if I open this up, I will get sound out of the filter, so then I would hear that. So then I would need a VCA to close this up again, and it's already a way of defining what you can do. If I would now use my ADSR, it will give you some kind of a typical sort of sound. So that means that if I take my pitch out of this sequencer into my VCO to start it by or to change the pitch of that, and the external input here is a volt per octave setting, and the sequencer also uses volt per octave. That means that if I have it set at 0 like this, there's not going to be going to be any change to whatever setting I have here. Actually it's at, I think it was at middle C, I don't even know exactly, but it means that if I use the normal way of how a major scale works like that and so on, that I have steps on the sequencer. So I have my 0 step here, and if I wanted to go up a fifth, for instance, I would actually have 7 semitones that I needed to go up. So if I do something like this, and I take the next one on an octave, so that's 12 steps, and then this one back to 7 again, and then it will come back. So it starts off with a C, then it goes up to the G, and it goes up to the next C, and then back again, and so on. So if I start this, it will play that sequence, and it's pretty fast. And the way it opens the filter is decided by the envelope. So that means that if I um, like this, and I'm turning the speed back, and I'll close the envelope just a bit to be able to talk through it. If I do this, it's looking at the ADSR, it sees that the attack is closed, the decay is closed, it only has sustain, which goes up to the full level of the filter, so to speak. So if I close this, I won't get, or I hardly would get any sound. But so this is deciding up to this level of the envelope how the filter opens. And if I put my resonance up, I'll get a different sound as well. So this decides the sustain level. So now I'm taking the sustain level down, but then the decay decides how long it takes before it's getting to that sustain level. And then afterwards, when it's gone through all of that, it reaches the release phase. So this decides how long the full bass will play. So I could do something like this, and this is now running at a specific speed. So let's dial this up a bit to make it a bit more believable as sort of a Berlin kind of thing. And if I didn't want this, or if I wanted more steps like this, I could actually put this up to 16 and it would go through all of those steps at the moment. But maybe I just want a couple of steps, and the sequencer is created in such a way that I can use my shift knob there, or shift key that I can push in, and then use my mouse button to left click on those knobs to take the actual gates out of those. So now it's actually only taking these notes, and those shift clicky things are toggle buttons. So if I do something like this, it will take those two notes, and I could do something like this in the next section as well. Now the only thing is that since I've created it this way, it's only going to give me gates on the steps that I'm working with, because obviously, as you can tell, there's no other gate in there now. The other gates are closed for all of the ones that seem purplish. So what I could do actually is take another sequencer out to sort of control this one. So if I take my another sequencer out, and I'm actually going to use my gate input for that, and I take that into the gate output of the first sequencer. This one will actually drive that one by using its speed. So I'll reset this one, and as soon as I start this, it's going to send a gate out to the gate input of this, so it'll start that sequence, and it will run through every step that way. So even if it doesn't give me gate, I would still have that tempo. So let's take this. I don't know what speed it was. It was a 69. Well, let's put it at 60, and actually the speed for this one doesn't matter anymore. So I'll take this and I'll put it at 60, and I'll just switch on. But now it might be that I actually wanted my filter to be a bit more on like this. But then obviously it stays open all that time. So now it might be a good use for an extra VCA in there that I can drive from an ADSR as well. Maybe a separate ADSR that I can drive from all of that to close it before. But well, let's just keep it at this and play around with the other settings a bit. So do something like this. So as said, this is actually driving the other sequencer, and the speed in here decides everything else. So most of the time I then go back a bit and take some parts out of this first cabinet, so I could actually just add an empty cabinet and take this as being the sort of the controller sequencer out of this, because now and I can actually use my blank panels for that if I just put in here, because all of those blank areas of those modules have editors in them. So if I do something like my bass, which is in my area next to this, so something like this, and I'll put this on line modules left, and the one below is my controller, so put that in as well. So something like this, so at least I know what it is, and maybe add such an arrow there as well by using two hyphens and a larger sign in there as well. So this is my bass, this is my controller, and I can then add the next one. So let's create some kind of melody in there besides this bass sequence. So again, and I could obviously copy it from here, but I can take it out of my library bin as well. So let's take an X sequencer out, and let's put the blank in there to show me that I'm going to create some kind of melody. And obviously the melody is going to need, or it's going to use an oscillator, an 80s and a filter again. I mean, most of the time you're actually just copying all that kind of stuff over, but let's just drag them in, so maybe I don't even have to look at it that close up, because I'm thinking in larger lines at the moment. So I need the VCO, I need a filter, and I need an 80s at least. So do something like this, and I'm going to drive the speed from this from that same controller sequencer. So I'm going to use the gate out of this to drive that, and maybe it's best to start or to stop these first, or start those, because they should be running at the same point. So I'm resetting that one, I'm resetting this one, and I'm resetting that if it needs to be. And I'm just going to take, well, a couple of notes in there, and if I run it like this, it's going to run it every time, right? So it's if I, let's first of all, I'll see what I can do to this next one to set sort of a melody out of this. I'm going to take the pitch out of this into my external from my VCO, because then it drives the pitch. We'll be using, I think, a triangle. I need a sort of a Tangerine Dreamish kind of sound. So most of the time they didn't use too sharp sounds for the shorter melodies. So and since it is going to be a shorter melody, a shorter sound, so to speak, I'm going to use my ADSR in a sort of lower setting already. So that means no attack, or maybe very slight attack, then some decay, no sustain, and some release, and I'll fine tune that later. I'm going to use my gate output from that sequencer, which is driving that melody, and I'm using my output, my envelope output, to go into the envelope input of the filter, and of course I need to connect my VCO into the filter itself, and I'm going to be taking this into my main output. And since I'm doing it that way, it might be better to create an extra empty cabinet up there. So I'll be panning all of that information. So that's why I have this panning module in here. So I can take my panner, and because now I'm starting to think about the output signal, because now I only had this one signal coming from that base, but that base is now going into my panner, so I can decide where to put it in my stereo field. And I'm going to put some reverb and some delay in. I like delay a lot. So I'm taking my delay in, I'm taking a reverb in, and I'm taking the output of this into the stereo input of the delay, and I'm taking the output of that into the stereo input of my reverb, and then the reverb is the only one going here. And I could have taken a module in between there as well, and I need to switch them on to be able to use that effect. So I'm taking the output of this into my panner input, and so that means that if I now, this one is started, let's zoom out slightly again so I see what I'm doing slightly more. So I've got my controlling sequencer, which controls everything else, and I might have to reset all of those just to be sure that they're starting at the same point. And this one is driving by its gate output that sequence there, that sequence there, and the output for the sound, for the bass sound, is going to the input for the panner on the panner, and this output is going to, and you can hardly see that because my wires are pretty thin, but this output is indeed going to that second input here, so that means that I can pan this to some direction. So if I switch this on, and You actually hear that it is doing something, but not what I intended. And obviously there's far too much reverb and stuff like going on like that. So I need to take some reverb out. And this let's put it like that, and dial back on the feedback a bit. Take the delay out a bit. Something like this. To start off with, maybe put the volume up a bit more so you can hear it enough. Well, that next sequence for the melody is not doing exactly what I want yet, so I need some pitch in there. I'll put the frequency up 2 octaves. Okay, so now this is running all the time, and I might not want that, and I've got this new option in those sequencers where I can, and I'll first zoom in and show that. That's this small thing here that means that if I switch this on, this is going to run in its full tempo for that speed, only is that it's going to be, since it is connected to the normal sequencer output, it's not going to complete that full sequence. If instead I'm going to take my first step here and take the output or take the input from this next one into this into that accent there, it's going to run it at different speed. It's going to be started every time we get into this. So let's first of all switch this off. Let's go make a reset, and I might have to calculate. I'm not quite certain at what speed I am. Oh, it wasn't set at a specific speed. Let's go a bit back. Let's go into 60 speed. So that means that if I would do something like 120 or something like this, it's going to run at double speed. Because if I have this switch set on, it's going to run as soon as it gets a gate, which I'm taking from the accent output there, and it's going to run it at its normal speed now. So if everything's reset, and let's make sure that I do, so reset this, reset that, reset that, it's going to be run every time then. So so that means that I could have driven this sequence in another way as well. I could also, now it's running through all of the sequence, but if I use that once switch to switch on that specific sequence, you can hear that it's running in a different way. So that is the way that I think about those modules, and normally I try to keep this as close as I can. I'm a graphic designer as well, so I want to keep this as close as I can get. So yeah, that's mainly what I do with this. So I think I'll finish the complete sequence in a different session. So thanks for your attention so far, and I'll be back later. Cheers. Bye bye.